As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.
So, hey guys, we're going to be going on topic. I just want to make sure everybody knows we're going to get back to the house full of bodies with part 3 of our cold justice, a cold justice under fire, Kelly Siegler. But as I was doing some things were popping off. I guess a couple hours ago, there was an officer involved shooting in Tennessee. And of course, it comes up on Twitter, the Twitter feed for TBI, because one of the journalists had just arrived on scene. So I wanted, since it was just breaking off, this is kind of breaking news, I just wanted to direct our attention over to this crime scene, where I'm going to see if I can try to pull up some feeds. It looks like somebody has just got on scene about 4 or 5 minutes ago, so we should probably be getting some feeds brought to us really soon. So I'm monitoring that behind the scenes, but this is kind of what brought us here today, literally right before I went live. So I just wanted to read what was going on, so everybody was kind of in the know of what is going on out there in Tennessee. But this is by the Amazon facility. And they said Shelby County Sheriff's Office deputies shot and killed someone near an Amazon facility in Raleigh, South Carolina. What is this? Shelby County Sheriff's Office said. The deputies were involved in an officer-involved shooting at New Allen Road and Victory Ridge Cove. The suspect died at the scene. The sheriff's office said that the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations is headed to the scene to investigate the deadly officer-involved shooting. Fox 13 news crews, they're going to be out there, at least 10 law enforcement officers and a fire truck on Victory Ridge Cove near Allen Road at 9 p.m. And you can see that. Let me go ahead and blow this up for you guys. Banner off. So there's heavy police presence, as you can imagine. Don't know what the situation is. Could be multiple things, from a criminal, a crime in progress, to mental illness, to not wanting to go back to jail. We don't know. A disgruntled employee. This is near a huge facility, Amazon. So it could just be a number of things that are going on right now at this facility. But again, this is all breaking. I'm just finding this out. We're reading it kind of all together. And then Yahoo says Shelby County, and it might just be the same stuff. Shelby County Sheriff's Office deputies were involved in a shooting at New Allen Road and Victory Ridge Cove Thursday. The department said in a post on X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, one person who the department describes as a suspect was pronounced dead at the scene. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigations is currently investigating, and the sheriff's office said in a post, TBI is a statewide agency that investigates local police shootings. It is standard practice to call TBI to investigate an officer-involved shooting. Oh, crap, I forgot about my food. sorry about that. I forgot all about. Oh, did I turn the stove off? Hold on. Well, I burnt my lima beans. I forgot all about that. I get so sidetracked here, I forget. I get start working and I just forget. I'm so busy. I'm doing 1,000 different things at once. But I got lima beans. We're good. Okay, sorry about that. So they TBI is currently, so they do that. The drivers are asked to avoid the area. It says from Shelby, Tennessee Sheriff, it says Sheriff's Office has been involved in an officer involved shooting, blah, 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 same stuff. So that's really all that we have on that front. And so that we're going to be moving on to our special. How we feel about this. So if you have not been following this or have not been with us for lunchtime, what we're doing is I read this article, came across my desk. I think what it is I'm pushing my paperwork down on a button on here. You guys can hear me, right? Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me. I can hear me. But anyways, this came across my desk and I started reading it because it had one of my favorite crime people in it. It had Kelly Siegler. It was talking about Cold Justice. Cold Justice was I don't think there's one episode that I missed. I've watched literally every episode of Cold Justice there is, and I probably watched it several times because I'm one of those people. Like even now, I still watch series that I watched way back when. There's just some things every now and again I go back and rewatch them. So like really like the first 48 hours, right? I mean, the first 48 hours has been around for years and years and years, yet I still go back and watch all the seasons all over again. So when I started reading this, I noticed right away that this entire article seemed to be very biased, very one-sided, very it wasn't, they didn't express the truth, in my opinion, as I'm learning it. So when I'm reading this, I'm looking into the case that they're referring to, and I'm looking at the newspaper articles and the judge's rulings and some of the commentary that was going on back then. And so when I was doing that, that's when I realized that this was a very biased article. But before I did that, I could feel the note because I was getting hot under the collar because, I love Kelly Siegler. I am a Kelly Siegler fan. I am a Cold Justice fan. And when I read this, I was a little frustrated. And I figured if I'm going to be frustrated, there might be some people that mimic my concerns. The problem is when I removed the emotion out of it and just read this article, I did agree in part on some of the things in here. And I think that that's why I decided to roll with this, because there are certain things such as, I'll tell you right here, there's this is all about Kelly Siegler gaming the informant system to solidify her convictions. They're saying she's abusing the process, that she's withholding evidence and stuff like that. Now, granted, a lot of defense attorneys use that language towards prosecutors. I mean, it's not uncommon. We see it all the time. But it's still unfounded. She has not been in trouble that I know of, or I have found so far. I'm not going to put my name on it because I just because I haven't found it doesn't mean there's not a complaint that she was reprimanded on in the past. I don't know. I can't find it. But what they're alleging here, everything I'm reading in this case, as far as her misconduct, was never founded. Court has never found it. Now, I don't know if they had a different remedy for reprimands, such as the Attorney Bar Association, the Quality Judicial Commission, or something like that. That's possible that we don't know about. But usually those things are public because She's a public official. Not only that, but at the time, a prosecutor. So the first day was kind of, they were talking about her stardom on Cold Justice and all of her accolades that they proclaim on the show. And they were very snarky about it, as if it, almost downplayed, but it really is an amazing resume. I mean, even since they started this Cold Justice, they had 49 arrests, 21 convictions, cold case convictions, 21 cold case convictions. And they still, for whatever reason, I guess as she was getting stardom, as she was starting to get popular, the defense attorneys were starting to take notice and starting to wage this campaign against her cases. One attorney saying that he wants an internal investigation in every single one of the files that she had touched. And you're talking about a person that has litigated over 200 trials. And I think it's some kind of ridiculous, like 115. Here it is. 200 trials. She secured more than 60 murder convictions and 19 death sentences. That is an amazing resume for a prosecutor. That really is. And so she had all these accolades. Well, now these attorneys are coming and saying that she did all this stuff. She withheld evidence, this, that, and the other. And in this Pribble case, because of the allegations in this matter, they went before a judge, and the judge overturned his conviction and basically said, you have 180 days to either bring a new case against him or let him go. And this is a guy that basically murdered 5 people, including 3 children. So they went to the appellate court, and then the appellate court overturned the lower court's ruling and reaffirmed Pribble's death sentence. And they keep complaining that they never addressed Kelly Siegler's malpractice, basically, that she did these inappropriate things, unprofessional things, code of ethics type of issues, that they never addressed those when reaching that decision at the appellate court. But I understand how appellate courts work. And I understand that, even if she did violate something, she should have been held accountable, even if he didn't get a new trial. And I don't see where that actually happened. But when he went there to get his new trial, the appellate courts look at something a little bit different. They can look at attorney misconduct and construe it a different way. They've got to gauge that just because there was attorney misconduct, if it's alleged, maybe they'll even stipulate that there was attorney misconduct. But if the attorney misconduct doesn't rise to the level where it would change or influence the jury, the appellate courts, they're going to affirm the ruling of the jury. Because this insignificant issue is raised. Was it inappropriate? Yes, it was inappropriate, but does it change the outcome of the case? It does not. And I know that there's that element that the appellate courts use when dealing with these cases. So there is a reason why they upheld it. But this is kind of getting back to the beginning, why we are brought here. Why is this Pribble case so important? And it's because this is the case that this particular article is focusing on. And I honestly think they picked a loser when arguing why Kelly is a horrible person, because this guy is he's scum. He's scum. And it's hard to dispute that he did it because of the facts of the case. And once you hear the disturbing and disgusting facts of the case, you'll understand exactly why this man is exactly where he deserves to be. And remember, one of his victims was a 21 or 22-month-old child. Now, granted, he did not hurt or assault any of the children per se. But when he set their mother on fire, the smoke inhalation is what killed all the kids. And that's what I said, when he set their mother on fire, because that's what he did. And so this is the neighbors. This is the neighbors account here. This is the day of. where they're finding all this stuff. If you guys remembered yesterday, we were talking about how Pribble and Hera were at the house. They're playing pool. They had some people over. This is a normal comings and goings for them. The family, normal comings and going for them. And then the neighbor, apparently the neighbor goes over there and hangs out quite a bit too. Okay. So this is the neighbor's account. His name's Gregory Francisco. And this is his account. Gregory Francisco lifted his garage door before Sunday, April 24th, 1999, and immediately smelled smoke. As he rushed across the street toward the home of his neighbor, Steve Herrera, Francisco could see it too, billowing from the turbines on the roof and curled out of the garage. The night before, Hera had invited Francisco to one of the regular get-togethers to drink beer, play pool, listen to music inside the two-car garage. Francisco didn't make it, but as far as he could tell, things looked like they usually did. The music was on, the garage was raised to shoulder height. By the time Francisco headed to bed at midnight, the gathering appeared to be winding down. Now, however, as Francisco rang Herrera's doorbell, he could hear music blaring, maxed out. He later testified. No one answered, so he rushed to the side door, which was hot to the touch. Francisco kicked it open. Inside the garage, he found Herrera face down on the floor between the pool table and the washer and dryer. Francisco yelled for Herrera to wake up, but then he saw blood. His neighbor was dead. Firefighters were the first to arrive on scene. In the den just beyond the garage, they made a grisly discovery. Herrera's girlfriend, Nilda Tirado, was slumped on a smoldering love seat. Next to her charred body was a can of Kutzik, a volatile solvent. On the floor was a red gas can. The walls were covered with soot, and the couple's big screen TV had melted. First responders found the children in the bedrooms. Herrera's 7-year-old daughter Valerie was face down on a bed. Tirado's 7-year-old daughter Rachel was nearby on the floor. In the master bedroom, firefighters found the couple's 22-month-old daughter Jade. The medical examiner determined that Herrera and Tirado had been killed before the fire was set. Each shot one through the back of the neck in what she called an assassin's wound. The children, whose airways were filled with soot, had died from smoke inhalation. Word of the murderers spread quickly. Relatives of Herrera and Tirado gathered outside the brick home as investigators processed the scene. The house was tidy and there was no sign of forced entry or a robbery gone wrong. Herrera's wallet, with approximately $900 inside, was found in the back pocket of his shorts. No weapon was found, nor any shell casings, which led investigators to believe a revolver had been used to shoot the couple. They gathered bottles, cans from the garage to process for fingerprints, but failed to preserve what appeared to be blood stain on the wall and the washing machine, evidence that could have been left by the perpetrator. Curtis Brown was a detective with the Harris County Sheriff's Office, led the investigation. Court records reflect it was less than robust inquiry. At trial, Brown confirmed that he spoke to just 4 people the day of the murders, including Herrera's brother, Edward, and his brother-in-law, Victor Martinez. Remember Martinez's name, by the way. Those interviews led him to Jeffrey Pribble, who has been a friend of Herrera's since grade school. From there, Brown looked nowhere else. That's according to this article. I don't believe that. Because according to Edward, Herrera and Pribble were at the house playing pool Friday night and paged him, looking to score an 8-ball of C. Edward and Herrera were both dealers, Edward told investigators, and Herrera was a regular user. Remember when I was talking to you guys the other day, and I said, you're going to probably find out that this has to do with somebody using drugs and spending way too much money on probably their habit. It just happens. So they said Herrera was a regular user of the C. Edwards said he tried to find some, but he never did. Now, Martinez, remember, Edwards' brother-in-law, had been at Herrera's house that night. He told Brown he picked up cigarettes and a 12-pack of Bud Light on his way to the house and arrived at 10 p.m. Later, the beer almost gone, Herrera, Preble, and Martinez loaded into Martinez's white Ford Escort, and the three men made their way to Rick's Cabaret, a nearby strip club. Preble was friendly, Martinez said, and nothing seemed off. After several drinks, the men headed back to Herrera's house around 2 a.m. They smoked some, happy tobacco. They smoked a J outside of Martinez's before Martinez headed home. Preble and Herrera went back into the garage to play pool. On Saturday afternoon, Brown and Deputy Ryan Hernandez made their way several blocks west to Preble's home. I wanted to make sure I even highlighted that. Several blocks, because that's going to be important. Several blocks. Remember that. Several blocks, several blocks, several blocks. Not a mile away, not a quarter mile away, not 20 miles away. Several blocks. It's going to be important. Preble, then 27, had been honorably discharged from the Marines in 1995 and was living with his parents along with his 7-year-old son. The deputy said Preble was shocked to learn about the murders. He agreed to go down to the sheriff's station to provide a statement. Preble's statement was largely mirrored Martinez. After Martinez left, Preble said that he and Herrera played pool until Tirado came into the garage, fixing Herrera with the look that Preble was a sign that it was time to wrap things up. He said Herrera drove him home around 4 a.m. Preble went inside and straight to bed and slept until early afternoon. He was hanging around the house and playing with his son until the cops came knocking. The deputies later testified that they believed Preble's statement to be truthful. Nonetheless, the cops asked Preble to take a polygraph test, and the results indicated deception. They read Preble's rights and sat down to provide a second statement. There was something he'd left out. So now up to this point, he was just there playing pool, no big deal, doing a little 8-ball of C, or looking for it at least. Now they're all tatered up and looking to go to a strip joint, right? So now they're all toasty. I have to imagine 2 a.m. Pretty lit. The bad thing is whenever you drink and use substances, it messes with your brain. It messes with your brain. I've seen some of the nicest people in real life, just absolutely the nicest people. Let them do a substance, they are whacked out of their ever-loving mind. It is awful. Some people, most people are, obviously on the substances at high, but some of those substances, even low-grade substances like marijuana, right? Sometimes people, I've known a person smoke a little bit of marijuana. They almost go nuts. They almost go nuts. It's like I'm not sure why my microphone keeps disconnecting. I don't know if this thing's not charging it or what. It shouldn't have any problems, but I think it's every time I put this paper down on my equipment, it does something to it. So maybe I just need to move the equipment out of the way. I'm not sure. So sorry about that. Where was I at before my microphone went off? I remember I was making a point, but I just lost it because I got sidetracked with that. Hey, Huntress, nice to see you. Hello, everybody, by the way. Hello, everybody, by the way. So up to this point, he was just there shooting pool. They were partying. They came home. They were probably tatered up. That's what I was at. They were at, we're talking about drugs and the stuff it does to your brain and stuff like that. We know alcohol makes people do stupid stuff. We can look at the Murdaughs, right? And look at Paul Murdaugh. They called him Timmy. His friend Timmy come out and play when he got drunk. And Timmy was a much different person than Paul was. So you're dealing with people here that are rough around the edges. They obviously have some major substance abuse problems. They have drinking problems. They're partying, and they're probably, well, we'll stop there because there's more to the story, and we're going to get to it. So even though they thought he was truthful, they asked him if he'd be willing to take a polygraph test. And of course, the act continues, and he has to agree. He can't not take a polygraph test at this point, right? He has to. So they read, and he didn't pass. So they read him his rights, and he provided this second statement. And so he tells them there was something he had left out. He told them he and Tirado, Nilda, the girlfriend of Herrera, were involved in an affair and had sex in the bathroom after the men got home from the club. I find that hard to believe, but I digress. He failed to mention this, he said, because he worried he would ruin her reputation. Pribble provided a DNA sample and let the cops photograph him naked. They did not find any soot, burns, or other wounds on his body. Investigators searched Pribble's parents' house, collecting the clothes he had worn Friday night, which had no traces of blood, smoke, or any accelerant. They collected firearms, magazines, and ammunition. They found paperwork related to a .38 revolver, but didn't find the gun. DNA collected from Tirado was soon matched to Pribble, who had given his history about their sexual tryst. There was the explanation, so he explained it. But however, on Monday, police took a statement from Cynthia Garcia Flores, and this is a childhood friend of Tirado's. It was the first in a string of statements that raised questions not only about Pribble, but about Herrera and what the two were up to in the weeks before the murder. Flores said Herrera told her husband that he and Pribble were involved in bank robberies and Herrera's take was $12,000. Herrera had paid her husband, Vincent, for a job with some of the cash from the heist. Vincent said Herrera used the money to pay him for C. Another woman who said she had been having an affair with Herrera told police that months before the murder, Pribble handed Herrera a bag full of money. And Edward, Herrera's brother, said that he'd seen both Pribble and Herrera with large amounts of cash. As it turns out, Pribble had robbed 6 banks in March, which is crazy to me. In 1999, how can you not know that 6 banks were robbed? I mean, there was not a whole lot of news, or there may have been, but I couldn't find a whole lot of news on it. The robberies went down in the same way. Pribble donned a baseball cap, drove his mother's car to the bank, and he was carrying a stack of manila envelopes and a note for the teller that read, "This is a robbery." While the iterations, including a warning that he had a gun or a bomb, though never brandished a weapon, Pribble would instruct the tellers to put the cash in the envelopes and wait 60 minutes before doing anything. He later told the detective that detective with Houston Area Bank Robbery Task Force, which had dubbed him the serial killer, the 15-minute bandit. The robberies were part of an absurd scheme Herrera and Pribble had devised to come up with enough money to buy their own nightclub. Pribble had robbed banks, then Herrera would launder and grow the cash business by buying drugs that he would sell for profit. Somebody with a C habit probably doesn't need to be a dealer, because they're going to get into their stash more than they're going to sell their stash. And this is where I think the major problem came and what caused 5 people. Not that they were at fault for it or that anything that they did should have lost their life. That's not what I'm saying. But there are explanations and observations as to why we were led into this situation to begin with. So they were part of this absurd scheme to come up with enough money to buy their own nightclub. Pribble would rob banks, then Herrera would launder it. Oh, I've already said that. And sell for profit. After we bought one club, we would then open more, Pribble told a task force investigator. So at some point, he came clean to the investigators about this deal and his involvement in these bank robberies. He told investigators, and I quote, "I trusted Steve. I thought he could use his drug connections to make us a lot of money. Steve was a smart guy when it came to things like that. Until you have a substance abuse problem, and then all that smartness goes out the window." Hey, big boy, it's nice to see you. As an unrelated FYI, if you are in the US and want to buy an Apple Watch Series 9 or Ultra 2, better get it before December 26th. They are getting banned. Oh, wow. Well, thank you for letting us know. If anybody's interested. Why are they being banned? That's a little odd. Weird. Oh, why are they? That's the same question I have. Like, how can Apple banned? That makes me feel very uncomfortable about buying that product. Like, why would it be banned? So he ends up going on and saying, in all, the robberies netted the friends about $45,000. In the wake of the murders, the cash disappeared and has never been found. On May 21st, 1999, Pribble confessed to the robberies. 3 months later, he was sentenced to 5 years and shipped east to the Federal Correction Institute in Beaumont. The investigation into the murders of Herrera, Tirado, and the 3 children went cold. So that's where we are. That is chapter 2. This is our 3rd part series on this particular matter. So I wanted to go over what we read here. So this is now we're starting to see a unsavory picture being developed here before our eyes. And although this article is biased, I do believe that it is absolutely biased. Even the details in this case are skewed in the worst possible light for Kelly. And I think that that's bad because they're almost implying that Pribble didn't do it, which is obviously their stance in this article. But I think the reason why they chose to go after her in this article is because she's notable. You know, it'll sell. I really do believe that. I do believe that. I can taste a little bit of the burnt, even though the lima beans I've got in here aren't burnt. I scorched the crap out of that pot. I did. I forgot all about it too. And I put it on high so I could get it warmed up before I came live. And I got so sidetracked because we had the breaking news of the officer involved shooting. So I'm trying to rush around, get the stuff pulled up and make a new thumbnail all at the same time. And I forgot all about that. And then I realized it was about to turn 12:30 and I needed to get on with the show. And I sat here and kept smelling something. I'm like, I completely forgot I even turned the stove on. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what is that smell? I'm smelling the lima beans. The lima beans. Oh, Lord. Oh, well, they're still good. Hey, Honey Dip, it's nice to see you. Everybody that's in the chat, it's nice to see you. Sorry. I'm stuffing my face for lunch. And we're going over this part 2 of Kelly Siegler, the story of stardom. And we're in chapter 2. And this is where they're starting to talk about the Pribble case, which is what they're trying to beat Kelly up on this one. They're trying to hone in that she did this in this case, and she's got to be doing it on all the cases. That I disagree with. And I know we're not quite there yet. But just getting back to this whole Pribble thing and how this whole investigation went, they're basically alleging he didn't have anything to do with this. But there's a lot of questions because only a few people knew about the bank robberies. Only a few people knew who were involved. And obviously, Herrera was spending the money on personal items like repairs to his home. He paid his brother-in-law money or cash, or brother, I can't remember which, money or cash. He had a substance abuse problem. And he's supposed to be laundering this money for Preble and taking the money and making more money with it so they can buy their topless bar. That's what they were talking about doing, the topless bar. But I think the problem is Preble was putting his neck out. He was the one robbing these banks. He was the one getting the money. He just wanted them to take the money and make it bigger and go 50-50. You know, he was kind of being a good guy. I mean, a good criminal. You know, he was wanting to share the wealth. He just wanted everybody to come up together, right? Well, Herrera unfortunately has a drug problem. And when you have a drug problem, you don't think clearly. You start thinking about hitting over banks so you can get money to buy drugs to sell, so you can make even more money so you can buy yourself your topless bar, right? And when you say it like that, it kind of says like, whoever thought this was going to be a great idea, right? Well, that's what happens. You know, remember that back in the day, I know a lot of us are old enough to remember the campaign to say no to drugs. Remember the egg in the frying pan? I think that's a true statement, right? This is your mind. This is your mind on drugs. Right. Hey, Shannon, it's nice to see you. It's nice to see you. So I do think that they weren't thinking clearly. This was not a good idea. They were bound to get caught. I mean, you can't just start robbing banks and not get caught. You know, it just doesn't happen like that. So you're already seeing what's going on behind the scenes and why investigators are looking at this guy strongly in the wake of this situation. He was the last one to see him. He was the last one with this guy. He was absolutely the last person that saw this entire family. And then right there at the end of chapter 2, we learn the bombshell of now he's sleeping with the girlfriend. So now he's trying to basically allege that there's this love triangle. What happens if Herrera caught him in the act? And he ended up losing his stuff and had taken out everybody because he couldn't leave witnesses. We don't know, right? We don't know. We don't know. If you guys read the article, you know. I know what happened, right? I know what happened. But yeah, for all the people, you guys are walking with this story with me, right? So some of you guys have never heard it. So I don't want to give too much away before we get there, because again, I've read this. I didn't just read it once. Like I've read it 5 times by now, because I'm just trying to look at stuff to look up and make sure that I understand what truly happened. Because they're alleging basically in the first chapter that this Ron Preble, however you pronounce his name, is somehow railroaded by the system. Like he was in front of an appellate judge. He was, you know, he had his day. He argued his case. He's been in front of several judges and several appellate, and he went to the Supreme Court. They're not going to take it. And I guarantee if the Supreme Court actually thought that he didn't do this or have evidence, I believe the Supreme Court looks at it. I believe they look at these cases and they read them. I don't think that they just say, oh, we don't want to read this, we don't want to deal with it, and move on. I don't think that they do that. I think that they have employees read. If it meets a certain criteria, then it moves to the next level. And if it meets a certain criteria at that next level, it moves to another level, and so forth and so on until it's reviewed. So I think by them saying no, it's kind of leaning me one way, that whatever they feel that they have on Kelly Siegler or her improprieties in this case weren't egregious enough that warranted him a new trial. And the judge upheld his conviction. and sentencing and placed him back on death row. It says May 20th, a federal judge on Wednesday ordered prosecutors to either bring the new case or release him from jail. Need to release him from jail. Oh, that's not the one from the Supreme Court. Sorry, I read the wrong one. Here it is. Sorry, I grabbed the wrong one. Here we go. So the death sentence restored for bank robber convicted of killing his best friend, his friend's fiance, and their 3 children. And I want you guys to read that. One of his best friends, his friend's fiance, and their 3 children. How do you do that? You know, who needs enemies when you have friends like that, right? A federal appeals court on Monday restored the death sentence of a bank robber convicted of killing his best friend, his friend's fiance, and their 3 children. In a 32-page opinion, a 3-judge panel, so it wasn't even seen by one judge. You're talking about 3 separate. I'm lagging so bad. Oh, hopefully it's your internet, not mine. It doesn't look like it's mine. But think about it. This is a 3-judge panel rather. So you're not just getting this from one judge, one seasoned judge. You're getting it from 3. So in this 32-page opinion, a 3-judge panel of the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals overturned a lower court's ruling that would have freed Ronald Jeffrey Preble Jr. if the state did not retry Preble within 6 months. I'm having a hard time with his name. I think I just need to call him Mr. P. The panel ruled that Mr. P, 50, failed to raise issues sufficiently compelling to discredit his conviction and sentencing. So he never brought enough evidence to discredit his conviction or sentence. The Harris County juror condemned Mr. P to death row in 2002 for killing Esteban Steve Herrera, Herrera's fiance Nilda Tirado, Tirado's 7-year-old daughter, Rachel Elizabeth Campion, Herrera's 7-year-old daughter, Valerie, and the couple's 22-year-old daughter, Jade Herrera, in 1999. Testimony from the 2-week trial showed Mr. P shot Herrera, then AR'd and shot Tirado. Setting her body on fire to hide DNA evidence. The children died from smoke inhalation from the resulting fire. Herrera, described as Mr. P's best friend and partner in crime, allegedly robbed banks with Mr. P and used money to buy and sell drugs. The men wanted to make enough money to open a topless club. However, prosecutors said Mr. P turned on Herrera after accusing him of stealing $250,000. In 2020, a federal judge ordered the prosecutors to bring new proceedings against Mr. P after his lawyer argued that prosecutors suppressed evidence and improperly handled testimony from jailhouse informants. So I want you to understand that these are allegations, okay? So anybody can pretty much say anything. So this particular defense lawyer is arguing that Kelly Siegler, because it says argued that the prosecutor, we know that this article is about Kelly Siegler and they're arguing about this very case. So the prosecutor that's in here that has not been named in this article is Kelly Siegler from Cold Justice. And so the defense lawyers are arguing that prosecutor, i.e. Kelly Siegler, coached informants to speak against Preble, Mr. P, and that his cellmate, Michael Beckham, said Mr. P confessed to the killings because Beckham had conceived promises of relief from investigators, the news agency reported. So they're saying that the federal judge ordered prosecutor to bring new proceedings. So the prosecutor is Kelly, to bring new proceedings against Preble after his lawyer argued that the prosecutor, i.e. Kelly, suppressed evidence, and improperly handled testimony from a jailhouse informant. When it went to the appellate court, they didn't even address the arguments that this attorney made against Kelly. It was never addressed. So, as far as I'm concerned, those are unfounded statements against Kelly that they're taking as fact in here. They're saying that she did these things. Yes, people are alleging that she has done those things. I guarantee there's not a prosecutor across this country that hasn't been alleged of doing wrongdoing in prosecuting defendants. It's part of the job. It's part of what the defense does. They accuse prosecutors all the time of improperly doing things. Sometimes they do. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it's not. It's trial strategy. Sometimes you're willing to do something. I mean, a prosecutor should never. We want them to uphold the law, and we never want to have to do it again because it's cheaper. It's cheaper on the people for them to do it right the first time than have to redo it a second time. You know what I'm saying? So we want them to do it right the first time. We certainly do. All right, guys. Well, that's all I have. Excuse me. That's all I have for part 3 of this this particular case where we're going through this article for Cold Justice, where the people that wrote this article are really casting shade on Kelly Siegler, which is one of the main stars of Cold Justice. I am a Cold Justice fan. I'm a Kelly Siegler fan. And this article really got me upset when I read it. And I had to remove my emotions in order to understand what they were saying and reasonably explain some of this stuff. I do agree in part that, you know, the system of informants could cultivate abuse. I absolutely say that I agree with that 100%. I absolutely believe that the way the system works could cultivate abuse. However, in this article, they allege that it could, cultivate abuse. However, they didn't specifically address it. They're trying to say these two situations are how it was done. I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with it. And it's kind of hard for me to have like a meaningful conversation with you guys until we get through chapter 3 and chapter 4. And then when we open this up for more conversation and start going back and forth, that's going to be on day 5 or 6. With our conversations, because there's a lot here to process and unpack, and that's why I decided to break it down with the chapters of the story, because I find that it's beneficial, at least for the understanding. So tomorrow we're going to go over chapter 3, which is called, oh, thank you, it's me, Jen. Thank you, God bless you. A Real Trial Tiger. Now they're going to go in and start telling us about how she is able to utilize all this and manipulate her way to the top, right? And manipulate her way to the top. I hope you guys are enjoying it. You know, this is just something that I wanted to do for the lunch break crew. You know, I know there's a lot of people that can't, it's kind of almost like in a bad spot. They can't, it's too early too early for the morning crew, too early for the night crew, but hopefully they can find some time to hit the lunch crew. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to continue to find little stories and kind of dissect at lunch. It just takes us away from the main stories and gives us an opportunity to learn other stuff. So I thought this was great. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. God bless you guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you back here at 6:30. Take care.